everyone. So I just wanted, I made a comment last night in the group to a post that can be easily misinterpreted. So I made a comment in the post last night that could easily be misinterpreted, and it's hard to get across in writing sometimes. So I thought I would just put a quick video up so I could explain a little deeper. I don't want to go into too much detail, but there is a common idea, and it was mentioned in the comment, that even psychologists will often, excuse me, will often talk about needing to sneeze, also needing to experience emotions to kind of get them out and this kind of stuff. And there are times when that's true, and there are a lot of times where it's not. So, for example, if there are these places, and there's one down here in Brisbane, and there are more and more of them around, where people can get their anger out, and go in and break glass and break things and all this kind of stuff. So there is research on this kind of thing. It was started off actually in schools in the Bronx, in New York, where they took children with aggressive tendencies and so on, and they gave them these opportunities to let it out, and the violence and aggression spiked immediately, right? Because it's a god-awful idea, right? What you're doing if you have somebody who's feeling angry and aggressive, and you teach them to break things and be aggressive. What you're teaching them, whether it's an adolescent or a retired, I don't know, person of retirement age, then what you're teaching, what you're doing to yourself is training yourself that when I feel like this, I will be aggressive. So it's an awful idea. I'm really confident here. It's a dumb idea. It'll make things worse. There's nothing good about it, right? Would it be fun just to go smash things in a room full of glass? Yeah, I can see that. I could be convinced to go in perhaps and do that too, but not as a stress relief or anger reduction tool. It's a stupid idea. There's no evidence to support it, and there's amazing amounts of evidence to reject it. So there's that. So the idea that getting emotions out is nuanced a little more. It's not the case, yes, that you need to get emotions out. It can be really bad for you. So there are other examples. If people falling into depression and long, intense sadness emotion episodes, if you say to them, oh yeah, you go see sad movies or read depressing articles in the newspaper and so on. Sure, you get the sadness kind of out in as much as you'll be sad, but again, you will not be doing yourself any good at all. You're editing out anything that might be inspiring or helpful or good that's going on in the world that might actually lift your spirits and give you a good reason to go on and prevent the spiral down into depression. We could say similar things for anxiety and so on. So the idea that you need to experience or have emotions happen in order to heal them, if as a key, if people say that's their core element, you must feel them to heal them, I think that's bogus. And I'm very solid ground in a research base here. However, there are a lot of examples where people experience something and they actually go to extraordinary lengths, cognitive lengths, like mentally and also externally, to avoid having those memories happen, right? And one of the things that people tend to be afraid of if those memories arise is that it'll trigger off all these emotions and set them into the same, it'll re-traumatize them, basically, which is absolutely the case. So people suppress them, they try never to have the memories and never experience it and so on. And actually, this is also incredibly dangerous. In fact, there's research, again, some of you will have seen me present it, where people are told to suppress emotions. As soon as you tell them to suppress emotions, their level of stress just spikes, just being told to do it, let alone putting them in front of something stressful. Talk to me if you're interested in that research, because I'm always happy to talk about that. So here's where we're at. There are some people who have tried to repress these memories and not experience the emotions, and this is a problem because they're going to arise at some point, and they're going to arise when they're unexpected, and they're going to arise when you're already under stress and not having the cognitive load. We say the stress is too high to keep suppressing and ignoring what's going on, and boom, it all explodes really intensely at a terrible time. So I've sort of tried to give two extremes here. Letting it out all the time, dumb idea, bad idea, lots of research to say you shouldn't do that. People who are suppressing it and trying to suppress it, also really dangerous, but a little more understandable, quite frankly, concept. So of course there's a middle ground. If those, if people who have repressed these memories and emotions and really struggling with them absolutely need to be able to, in a safe space, talk about them, bring them up. Uh, it'll experience the emotions again, sure. And in fact, hopefully in a supportive space where they actually manage to ride through it and see, well, like any emotional episode, when you come out the other end, you're okay. Whether it was anger, sadness, or even enjoyable emotions, when you come out the other end, you're okay. And so then you get more and more kind of confidence or less and less fear of those memories and so forth arising. So that's an absolute case where you do need, and it's not because you necessarily need to feel the emotion, but you do need to be able to access the memories and let the memories come out. The emotions will inevitably happen, and it's nice to come out the other end of that with some support and find that, yeah, that was okay. Those things don't hurt me as much as they sort of seem that they will beforehand. But in the approach that I teach, and some of you know, say in the Beyond Mindfulness method, also in Cultivating Emotional Balance and the advanced courses I teach, uh, we really spend a lot of time on giving techniques that help people, they help you separate out, sort of distinguish between an event that has happened and the memory of the event. So I have a lot of time to go into it here, and it takes a bit of thinking about and some back and forth usually. But it's not very hard for most people to um, agree that yes, an event is not the memory of the event. They're different. And of course, our memories of events are never accurate. So, so we've have that going on. And excuse me. And so if you try, what happens though is when we have memories arise, we tend to mistake them, we confuse them for the actual event. Right? And then that re-triggers us, and away we go, and we relive something even though it's not happening to us. This is, extreme cases. We're talking about post-traumatic stress disorder and flashbacks and so on. So there are techniques to help you, as those memories arise, actually treat them as memories and not as the event. You sort of start to unfuse them, we say, pull them apart. And the more and more that we treat them as a memory, the more and more we see that memories in and of themselves actually don't have any power to do anything. It's only when we start to mix, the memory with the actual event, and we start to confuse them, and it can just be a small percentage. It doesn't have to be 100%. But as we start to confuse the memory with the actual event, then it starts triggering us more and more, and we relive the event. In extreme cases, even our perception changes in a flashback. So we would believe that we're back at a traumatic accident or on the battlefield and so on. And so what these techniques are designed to do, from a very gentle beginning through to quite extraordinary techniques that will help you go straight in, like really head on, take on these difficult memories and trauma, and separate the memories from them from the actual events, then the actual memories aren't going to set you off into debilitating emotional reactions, even mental illness and so on, like depression and anxiety. So that's all, and it's very accessible. It's, you can do it quite quickly if you have the time and the interest and the right instruction, if I can say that. Uh, and then I'm just going to finish with this. I just want to make sure that we're really clear about it, that what I'm saying here is not that the events and the trauma and these sorts of things that happened in the past are trivial, because they're not. They're extraordinarily important, and they really happened. And in trauma cases, they're really unfair. They shouldn't have happened. It's there's no part of me thinks that it's okay. Even if it's something that wasn't your fault, and like car accidents or something like this, even so, it feels incredibly unfair, that it would happen to someone and then kind of interfere with their lives going forward. So it's important and they're real. My point is that once it's happened, it doesn't have to define the rest of your life. And again, when I talk to people about trauma, often people will object to this. Yes, it does define my life. Like I am a trauma victim, which is true. I'm not arguing that. But then if you see everything from the point of view of a victim, or everything from the point of view of not being able to get past what happened, then realistically, there's not much I could certainly do for you, and there's no point in trying these techniques realistically. You have to at least have some conviction that actually what we say in Buddhism is that you have to have some sort of doubt and think, oh, maybe it's not quite like this, is all it takes. Maybe it's not quite like this. And then that's the impetus to try something. And what certainly I would, some of you already know because you've been here a while, yeah, relaxation is the first one. So when the memories arise and you feel the emotions arise, you notice it happen, your attention's pulled away, you're distracted, and so you relax and pull it back together as best you can. And you get better and better at that over time so that those emotional spikes, you catch them earlier and earlier and earlier, and you can just keep pulling them down. But then once you get good at that and can stay kind of relaxed and confident, then there are actually practices that can take those memories on directly and just unfuse them from the events. So that when the memories arise, because it's very hard to be in control of what's going on in our minds, when those memories arise, we actually recognize them very quickly, maybe not right at the beginning, but we recognize them ever more quickly as a memory. And we know that the memory is not the event. And there are techniques and things you can train in that we can teach you to do that so that then it loses its power, which means the emotional spike that you're starting to experience actually drops away. And then sure it comes up again, of course, and it drops away. But instead of being this parabolic sort of, you know, intensity of emotion shooting up, what it becomes is a kind of like a sawtooth wave, where you start to get triggered and you notice and you drop back down. You start to get triggered and you notice and you drop back down and so on. And then the more you practice, the more relaxed you get, the more time you spend on it, the further apart these little spikes get, the less intense they get, until eventually the memories can arise. And not only do they arise, but you understand their memories, they don't really affect you. And then you can even go in, and this is, I'm talking you through the stages here. You can actually go in and think, oh, well, what can I do about it? What would I do if that happened to me again? Or I was in that position again. What would I do? What would be the most effective thing to do if I come across somebody else in that position, whether it's in the trauma or contributing to it or something? What are these things I can do? And these are going to be driven by your own personal experience and not by really highly charged emotions that are going to drive your behavior, which aren't going to give you any sort of sense or ability to innovate or do something you haven't done before. So that was a lot if you haven't come across this type of stuff before. So please, if you found it interesting, use this to get back to me. I'm happy to have this discussion while I'm here. And the obvious thing to do right now, if you haven't already, if you want to start, get rolling on this and it sounds helpful, is just enroll in this Beyond Mindfulness Method Starters Pack. It's only $7 and it's only $7 for another till the end of this month. So you could do that. But this isn't supposed to be a marketing plan. I'm happy to have the conversation. So put in the comments below and we can talk later. All right. So good luck with it. And I will speak to you soon. Nice to see you all.